little did I know that my life was going to change in the way that it did.
Mm.
I get into mortgages and my career literally takes off. I think within 6 months, I just had a steady flow of clients. My first deal, it took some time. I was learning the tips and tricks of mortgages itself, right? Because there's
Mhm.
so much into the business and the industry. And life is what happens when you're too busy planning. And
Mhm.
we go back to school. And one of the biggest commission loans that I get comes from the same woman that had posted on social media that she had her girls in this awesome private school. At the time, Valentina was having a really hard transition going into public school after being out for so long. And I pull her from the public school. I put her in a private school. I had like less than $3,000 to my name. And I was like, all right, God, well, this mortgage business, it's gotta kick up a notch. And my first deal came from a family at the school where I had my at the time only Valentina. And it was my first $15,000 commission check. And I was like,
Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I am your host, Angela Duncan, speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur. We talk all things money and business. Today's episode is sponsored by freemoneytipsbook.com. freemoneytipsbook.com. Head over there, download your free ebook on 7 habits to get you started on your financial freedom journey. Today's episode, I get to interview Ashlin Endter, and she is a mortgage broker, and she's going to teach us the mistakes you might be making when you're purchasing your home. Hi, Ashlin. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. Thank you so much for joining.
thank you so much for having me, Angela. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So why don't we first get started with your story, your journey, talk about how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's always such a fun question. You always get prepared for these things, but you're never really prepared until the question drops. But I guess going back to the journey of entrepreneurship, right? So a little backstory. I have two amazing daughters. I have an 8-year-old named Valentina. She just turned 8 on the 1st of December, and I have a 4-year-old, Alicia. I have two girls. Before I wanted to be, a mortgage broker, and I woke up one day, I was like, let me do mortgages. I wanted to be a mom. I mean, before, an astronaut and a doctor and a ballerina, I wanted to be a mom. So I had my first daughter at 21. I was in the medical field. I went from nursing bedside to health service administration. I helped open, medical homes. I got into ALFs. I had a little bit of everywhere in the medical business. And I loved the satisfaction of being able to help people make a difference in their lives, right? So obviously medical field was the way to go. I was going to be a doctor, I was going to be a surgeon. Like that was it. I was going that route. We're going to do the 12 years, get all the student loan debt. I was going to break bones and bring babies into the world, one or the other. But from there, uh I had the real big realization that the medical world is not what it all seems to be, right? So there's a lot of hierarchy, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of deep-rooted relationships from families that have owned, but the hospitals. And the reality is I wanted to change the world, but I realized that I couldn't change the world by just being a single person. So I got into health service administration, got into administration, and realized that I had no place in that world. And it was a very, very dark place because my heart aligned with patient care, client care, right? But the way that the medical field is, what aligns here doesn't align there. And the balance of seeing, people who needed treatment and couldn't get it because of insurance issues, right? Or people that needed a certain medicine, but the doctor didn't agree with it because the nurse had said that this is what they needed before the doctor did. And people are really at the hands and the mercy of big egos. And I left. I just couldn't take it. I got pregnant with my first daughter at 21, and I was like, you know what? High risk pregnancy. Let me stay home the first year and just enjoy it. God gave me this beautiful gift. It's touch and go the whole way. Like, just be home for the first year. And for the first year, we struggled. We struggled financially. And I picked up a camera at my daughter's 1-year birthday. I was like, do we pay the $1,000 for the pretty pictures or do we make ends meet and have enough money for diapers and formula? So I picked up my camera that we had in the closet and started taking pictures and I posted them on Facebook, like proud mom moment. And everyone's like, hey, who's taking these pictures? I'm like, well, hey, I did them. I know they're horrible. And they're like, no, like, can you take my kids' pictures? And from there I blossomed a huge business and dove into family portraits, newborn portraits. And then from there, I got very specialized into newborn birth photography. And I was actually in the OR rooms with women who are giving birth. These are, high-end profile clients or clients that are going through IVF and it's their last embryo, it's their last child, or they went through this whole life-changing thing to have a baby. And I'm literally watching babies be born into the world. I mean, I think Hurricane Maria, when like half of like South Miami or like Florida evacuated, my client literally gave birth. We took pictures and I jumped in the car and we evacuated to like Destin. It was crazy. So that's kind of like my journey of entrepreneurship. As soon as I really, really got, specified and really grew my business into being like, okay, I'm going to be an on-call newborn birth photographer. This is my price range. This is my business. Like we're going full blown. COVID is in question, and it happens. I'm no longer allowed anywhere. The whole world shuts down, and what do we do? And my best friend, until this day, I give her so much praise. I probably don't give her enough praise. She's like, hey, can I get my real estate license? I've taken this test one too many times. Let's go a mortgage license. And I'm like, girl, I'm on welfare right now. Like we are literally on welfare. I am taking my WIC lactate cartons to Publix with a receipt, like embarrassed, like walking up to the door, like, hey, I need to return these milk cartons because my kid can't drink them. I would get like the $12 and walk outside to the Chase Bank and put the $12 into the ATM because we would overdraft on like a Thursday right before the next paycheck would come in. We just couldn't afford to be hit with the negative $35 because we were already going to be negative. So I was like, I can't even spell mortgage. What? Like we have one of those, but like my parents are helping me now. Like, what do you mean? And she's like, look, just do it with me. I'll help you. And I'm like, girl, hey mom, can you help me out? And my mom's like, Ash, like, you know, my mother's daughter. And she's like, I don't want to tell you no, but I'm already helping you where you are in your life, your dad and I want you to do something. You dropped out of medical school, you dropped out of college, you had a six-figure business you dropped out of, like, what are you gonna do with your life? And I'm like, Mom, can I just have the $500? Like, can you put it on your Amex? And she's like, all right, whatever. So that was the biggest blessing. I think in that moment where my best friend saying she couldn't do something, she's like, do it with me. Little did I know that my life was going to change in the way that it did. I get into mortgages and my career literally takes off. I think within 6 months, I just had a steady flow of clients. My first deal, it took some time. I was learning the tips and tricks of mortgages itself, right? Because there's so much into the business and the industry. And life is what happens when you're too busy planning. And we go back to school. And one of the biggest commission loans that I get comes from the same woman that had posted on social media that she had her girls in this awesome private school. At the time, Valentina was having a really hard transition going into public school after being out for so long. And I pull her from the public school. I put her in a private school. I had like less than $3,000 to my name. And I was like, all right, God, well, this mortgage business, it's gotta kick up a notch. And my first deal came from a family at the school where I had my, at the time, only Valentina. And it was my first $15,000 commission check. And I was like, wait, like I was praying for an extra $200 a month to make ends meet. Like if I can do this, and maybe not every commission check's gonna be 15K, but I could do 3K a month, right? That's enough of a full-time job so I can still be a present mom, right? Because it all came back to I wanted to be a business owner so bad because I still wanted to be part of my girls' lives. At the time, I only had Valentina, but now, fast forward, we have two girls. And my priority is I always knew the kids that were standing around, their parents never made it to anything. And I always said, even though I was a young mom, I said, my first priority is always going to be a mother. And I know sometimes I struggle with that work-life balance now, right? Because I'm building my business and it's very hard to still be present, but I never miss the school stuff. I'm always that present mom. I'm always volunteering. I'm always bringing the stuff because those are some of my fondest memories of my parents growing up, my mom specifically. So fast forward, um, that client just referred me to so many people. And from there, I've just built this referral network, and I've just continued to grow my business. And I've literally come from welfare. Like my story comes from welfare and the need to do something with her life. And let me tell you, Angela, it was a really, really hard time for me. I'm 21, 22, 23. I'm looking at my dad, and my dad comes from the school of hard knocks of like German tough love. And he's like, you're a failure. Like, get up, do something with your life. Like, we've helped you so much. We poured all this money into your businesses, and look at what you're doing. Nothing. And it's like, I'm watching my friends get married and buy houses. And I'm like, I'm not going back to a 9 to 5. Like, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. It's going to kill me. And I get this awesome opportunity, and it has been life-changing. The passion that I had being patient bedside,
Yeah.
I'm able to do now on the mortgage side. Like, we don't talk about the importance of owning your first home or buying your home, whether it's your first, your third, your fifth, your investment property, whatever it is. But I've seen life and birth, I've seen life and death on this side in the medical field, right? And now I see a new rebirth when people purchase their first home, right? When I
Mhm.
help those first time home buyers purchase their home, and they're like bringing their newborn baby to the house, or, they're taking their parents and they're having them, transition into their home because that's where they're going to rest. Um, the satisfaction and the absolute honor and the purpose that I have in my life, it really has all come down to this, is to allow people to attain home ownership and make it the best process, as smooth and as successful as we can.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to hear your story, like how, you prayed and God just touched you and he already had that plan for you. And I love how your best friend believed in you before you really believed in yourself. And so you took that chance because you trusted her, but she said, let's do this. She had that faith in you because she knew you had that servitude heart. And in
Mhm.
the mortgage industry, it's so important. It's not a numbers game. It's more of how can I serve my clients? And that's where your referral business is coming from, I can imagine.
Yeah, and that's the word. That's one of the words that we use in the business. Is how can we serve your mortgage needs? Because the reality is, what we do is of service, and it when you do it of service from the core of your heart and not just for the check. I mean, that's where the business really blossoms. You can't fake this. You can't fake the how can I serve you, right? Like, when people get on the phone with us and we go through the mortgage consult and we walk them through the process, and we have clients that come here and we talk about their financials and all the ins and outs, like, you can't fake that. You can't fake working at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. You can't fake, going hard in the paint and grinding and meeting realtors and getting rejected by realtors and having realtors tell you A through Z and still getting their loans because you can't fake this business. And those of us that are here that have survived now up to January 4th of 2024, of like some crazy year and a half, like, we're gonna be here for the rest of our days, and really just being able to serve people in the purpose of their home.
Yeah. I imagine there's been a lot of mortgage brokers and agents who've gotten out of the business because it is a tough market. But this is really where you're shining because you have that servitude.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of people, a lot of great talent leave the market. But at the end of the day, there is more than enough business to go around, even in a shifting market. It has just been just that we've had to shift our business. I've had to make business decisions in the last year where I had to leave some of the companies that I was at before, or I had to make a big, bold change. And I feel like as a business owner, and personally, anyone that's in business, you always have to pivot. It's sometimes like, hey, we were here today, but tomorrow we're gonna be in the next phase of whatever it is, because the world and the market itself is ever evolving.
Yeah. So out of our control as well. So how are
So
you teaching your daughter about business now that she's kind of a little bit older? Obviously you want to give back to her as well. Talk about how you intertwine business with your being a mom.
so definitely my motivation behind my business is my girls. So like, this was a gift that we got at her kindergarten graduation. This is my oldest, and it says, when I grow up, I want to be a mortgage broker.
Mm.
And I'm in the process of, making business decisions as we continue to grow as a team and as a mortgage broker. But the girls are always involved in it, both Vale and Ale. I tell them about when we get a new contract and how much the purchase price is. And, Valentina already knows that a mortgage is not going to be $2,000 in this market. We talk about rates, we talk about saving money, we talk about, what it looks like to buy a house. Sometimes my girls will look at Ellie's and they'll be like, yeah, mom, they're good to send. And they don't know, but I let them participate in it. Sometimes I'll take calls with my kids in the car and I'll say, hey, client, I know that we had to talk now, but the girls are in the car. And, we celebrate the wins. We celebrate the wins and we celebrate the losses. And, just, I think not even a month ago, Valentina had her first showcase. She's in aerial acrobatics. She does silks and all that fun stuff. And she was really not having it. And I ended up telling her, I was like, baby, I just lost a contract. It's the same way, like you just fell off the silks. I need you to get back up. Like, what
Mhm.
happens when mommy loses a contract? And she's like, well, you go get another one. I'm like, okay, well, you just fell off your silk. You're gonna have to get back up again. And I use a lot of the business, the wins and the losses. I use that in our everyday life. So like, hey, you got rejected, go get another one. Hey, things aren't going the way. I see loans go sideways all the time where we have to like get an extension or we have to move it lenders or we have to restructure, like go get another one. So we have that winning mentality. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not easy every day, but by being able to stay in this business and be active in this business and succeed in this business, I've been able to bring that home and be like, hey, today was a really crappy day. I lost 3 contracts. Someone backed out or someone shot me or I lost someone, whatever it is. And be like, well, mom, I had a rough day too. And I'm like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna thank God for today and we're gonna go get another one. So we bring that winner's mentality home and we don't get it right every single day. We definitely try.
Yeah. And so you kind of touched a little bit about that. For someone who has not been through the mortgage process before, what's the difference between, you and what you do versus someone walking into Bank of America?
Okay, definitely. That's a great question. So we have a very dialed in and systems process. And it's also welcome to the family. That's what I tell everyone. I'm like, hey, welcome to the family. We have an open door policy here. Hey, if you want to come into the office as long as I'm here or my assistant's here, come on in. We're gonna help you. So what it is, a lot of people are like, I don't want to work with you. You don't have a 740 credit score. No, we work with everyone from initial contact is, hey, I want to buy a house, I don't know if I can. And sometimes people can't. Well, we put them on a clear mortgage plan, right? And whether you're approved today or we're going to get you approved for the future, we put everyone on a clear mortgage plan and we tell them exactly what we need to do, all the things we need to execute to be able to reach and attain their goal. And then we follow through with them until, they get under contract and then every week from there. And then we have a retention program where we follow up with our clients once a quarter. I mean, it really is a family aspect. We want people to know that there's no question too big or too small. You can never feel stupid when you're calling to ask, hey, I don't know if to sign this. We want people to feel welcomed, and whether you're an amateur and you've never purchased a home before or you're a top tier investor, we want you to feel welcome here to ask the questions that you have so we can help you get the things done.
Yeah. And your ability to be able to help more people than perhaps the in the box vanilla type person that the bank is going to be looking for.
Right, 100%. So like, for example, if there's a gap of employment, and the thing is, we're closing loans in 15 days. Like, you can't
Mm.
get that at your regular bank. I understand that I probably can't beat your Bank of America rate. Sometimes I can. Bring me a locked loan estimate. But the service that you're going to get here compared to your Bank of America, you're very lucky if you get a loan officer that's in the office every day. You don't have to contact to the underwriters. My parents are actually getting a HELOC right now. And it's been a 4-month process. And I'm like, no, no, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
kids. My mom's already like, this isn't normal. I'm like, no, it's not. But yeah, that's how our process is different.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they get to talk to you, if you're going to the bank, you might be passed around to 12 different people in some department in North Carolina, and you're just a piece of paper versus you having really caring heart behind what you're doing too.
And that is where it is. That's where it lies. We go to bat for our clients. We go to bat for our realtor partners. We go to bat for everyone who we consider family. And anyone who's a partner here is part of our family. And like I said, Angela, look, this business is 80% emotion, 20% talent, right?
Mm.
If we're being clear. But when we realize that that's what it is, we're working with emotions, and we realize that everybody's on an emotional high. This is the biggest purchase of their life, whether it's their first or their 40th. I don't care what it is. We're talking about money. And when you choose someone to do the mortgage and say, hey, this is the client I'm bringing you, everybody's check falls in my hands. The listing agent's check, the realtor's check, everybody's check falls into it. Like, the seller's not going to get paid for the sale of their home. The buyer's not going to get their home. We're just not going to have this work. So it's a big responsibility. And having that service heart, and like I said, you just can't fake it here. Like, we're in it to win it, but we're in it because we care. And that's really what it is. And like, welcome to the family is something that we're really, really going to continue pushing this year, and really welcoming everyone, because it's not perfect, but we're going to work hard and we're going to do everything that we can for our people.
Awesome. So I have a fun question for you. It's completely
Yes.
off the mortgage topic. If you could have a superpower or a super talent, what would it be and why?
Yeah, superpower. It's going to be kind of silly, and it might be something that you haven't heard before, but the ability to have people be left inspired.
Hmm.
So I don't want to mind read. My anxiety won't allow me to function with that one. I don't want to foresee the future. I believe God knows that better than anyone. But I'd want to have the ability to leave someone extremely inspired, and for them to
Hmm.
be able to act on it. I have some pretty big dreams and goals. And if, I network a lot, I meet a lot of people, and everyone tells me, Ashlin, you inspire me so much. And it's like, okay, great. Well, go act on it. Uh,
Yes.
because sometimes seeing people do the things that scare them inspire me too. So if I had the ability, it would just be to leave people inspired, to really deeply inspired to go run after the things that they could dream of, and actually get to like the tip of what they're capable of doing.
I like that. That's awesome. Well, you've given us some great information today about mortgages and your story and how you guys are different. So, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
So they can definitely reach out to us on social. My handle is very, very simple. It's Ask Ash About Mortgages. It's the place where I want everyone to feel comfortable to ask questions about just that, mortgages. Or you can reach us on my office line at 786-769-5444.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Angela. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning into Empower Her Money podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast, and leave a review wherever you are tuning in.